This week on the 11th OVC, ignorance abounds, and it's amazing that basically what proves that we need to do more research and more primary research. Good day, good evening, whatever time it is when you're watching this. Those of you who follow our YouTube channel, you'll notice that I actually posted a question, a quiz, if you will, on our YouTube channel. I'll actually I'll share that right now so you guys can see that. And I find it interesting. So if you take a look at this question that I posted to our YouTube channel, it actually asks, we're going to do that right there. It actually asks, other than the Sharps carbine, what was the next most common carbine in specifically Buford's division on July 1st? I didn't say Gettysburg, but I'm assuming kind of Gettysburg was assumed, okay? And so I put some options there, whether it's the Burnside or the Smith or the Gallagher or the Merrill or the Spencer. I got a couple comments that said, wasn't the Sharps more common? Yes, read the question. Other than the Sharps, what was the next more common carbine? And the reason I posted this is because I was doing more analytical research, again, doing more research. That's taking all my time up. And I found, when I was running the numbers and do the graphs, I found it interesting. You'll see what the answer here is in a little bit, but I found it interesting what the second most common carbine was in Buford's division. Now, if you take the whole Cavalry Corps as a whole, that changes a little bit. But what was, out of the Sharps, what was the next most common one? And so the answer actually surprised me. Not the answer. Well, actually, the real answer surprised me, but also the public's answer to my quiz or my question surprised me even more. Okay. And so you can see here, you had 40, so out of 91 votes, we had 43% people say the Burnside and 44% of people, meaning the majority of individuals who voted, said the Spencer rifle. Now, I put Spencer there because, I could say Spencer rifle and then or Spencer carbine, and people would make the big deal about, well, there are rifles at Gettysburg, not carbines. The carbines came out later. And I wanted to avoid all that because, yes, we all know that, or maybe no, we don't. And it wasn't the Spencer carbine, it's a Spencer rifle. So in order to avoid that whole side argument, I just said Spencer. Okay, so the whole point is 44%, the majority of people who voted in this said the Spencer was the next most common carbine in Buford's division on July 1st. And that amazed me because that is not at all the truth. Not only is it not the truth, meaning it wasn't the second most common, it wasn't the third most common, it wasn't the fourth most common, it wasn't even the 18th most common if there was that many carbines in Buford's division, okay? Because it wasn't in Buford's division in a formal sense. Maybe if you had a time machine, you'd go back, maybe some random dude would have a Spencer on July 1st. But officially, there were no Spencer carbines, or sorry, Spencer rifles. See, I say something and mean another. There were no Spencer rifles in Buford's division on July 1st. And of course, then people are thinking about, well, we have in East Cavalry Field, you had the Michigan Brigade that had, I think it was the 5th Michigan, that they had the vast majority of that regiment had Spencer rifles. Then I think the 6th Regiment, the 6th Michigan had some Spencers as well in that regiment. But that was all East Cavalry Field. That was not the subject of this question at all. And what got me going is, this is, again, one of the things, not to fault people who answer that, because I wanted you guys to answer honestly. And obviously you guys did without researching, without Googling it real quick. And this is one of those most common myths about Gettysburg, and especially the cavalry at Gettysburg, is that Spencers, they helped turn the tide for Buford on July 1st. They were the ones that really, the Spencer really, without the Spencer, man, Buford would have been lost. And that's not the case at all. There were no Spencers. No regiment officially had any Spencers at all. So I'm going to break this down for you. I have actually a breakdown here of each of the major divisions. Well, because Custer was technically with Kilpatrick, but fought with Gregg at East Cavalry Field, I'm kind of fudging what I'm calling a division, and all that good stuff. So I want you guys to see this real quick, okay? So if you take a look, I'm going to move my picture here. There we go. if you take a look, this is carbines, if you can see in the graph, carbines of Buford's division on July 1st, or actually not July 1st, Buford's division as a whole for the campaign of Gettysburg, right? And these can be found at the National Archives. I think M120, I better not quote it. It's the quarterly returns for the Army of the Potomac, or Army in general, the whole federal army. You look at those returns, and I actually pulled a couple numbers from the carbines of the U.S. Cavalry book that I've kind of featured in previous videos. But if you take a look at this chart here, okay? In Buford's division, out of his 3 brigades, 82% of the carbines were sharps. No surprise there. Those of you who've watched my videos, you know I've said the sharps dominates from the beginning of the war to the end of the war. It dominates, right? And so that's why the question that I posted on YouTube was, what other than the sharps, what was the second most common carbine, right? So, and the reason I asked this is because the actual answer surprised me. If you take a look at this graph right here, what's the answer? The answer is not the Burnside. It is not the Smith. It is not the Merrill, and definitely not the Spencer. You see that 0 by the Spencer? That's 0. There's no Spencers in Buford's division on July 1st officially, right? So you have, if you take a look, the next highest number is 8% was composed of Gallagher's, okay? So 8% of Buford's division had Gallagher's. So, and then you had 3% had Burnsides, 4% had Smiths, and the other 3% had Merrill carbines. So 82% had sharps, then 8%, let's round that to a 10, had Gallagher's, and everything else was between Burnside, Smiths, and Merrill, right? That's why I posted the question to begin with, is because it's just Gallagher's, that's not one of the, just hard-hitting, famous, carbines of the Civil War that you think about of just dominating the Cavalry Corps, right? And again, it's only 8%. But still, I mean, the second most common carbine was the Gallagher carbine. Now compare this, and my question was only about Buford's division on July 1st on McPherson's Ridge, or the ridges outside northwest of Gettysburg, or west of Gettysburg, right? But just for fun, I went ahead and did East Cavalry Field. Okay, so if you take a look at these numbers on East Cavalry Field for Greg, and I'm including Custer as well in this category, that 54% were sharps. Again, no surprise there, the sharps dominated, right? But then take a look. The next most common one, even with the Spencer being famous on East Cavalry Field, you had the 5th and 6th Michigan, they had the Spencers, awesome, good job. Even Custer in his later reports said that, without the Spencers, it probably would have, the Spencers probably turned the tide in one of his reports, although you can argue what he meant by that. But it doesn't matter, because the answer to my question, even if we're talking about East Cavalry Field, wouldn't have been the Spencer. You go from 54% being sharps to then the next most common is 21% were Burnside carbines. Okay, so we go from sharps to then Burnsides, and then okay, fine, because the 5th Michigan had like some, I can't remember, can't remember what the numbers was. It was 300-400 ish Spencers for their regiment, which definitely is a big number for a regiment. That's a large regiment as well. Of course, I think if I remember right, the 5th Michigan was relatively new, if not brand new, during Gettysburg campaign. But just think about this. You had sharps, then the Burnside, and then 18% had the Spencers. And then, of course, then you had 0 Gallagher's, which is funny because it was the second most common for Buford's division, and officially zero Gallagher's in East Cavalry Field, 3% Smiths, and then 3% Merrills. Let's move on by combining this, right? So if you actually compare Buford in the blue with East Cavalry Field regiments in the orange, you had significantly more sharps in Buford's than in East Cavalry Field. Burnsides dominated East Cavalry Field versus Buford, right? And Smith's kind of evenly matched. The Merrills almost evenly matched. Gallagher's were 100% in Buford, 0 in East Cavalry Field. And of course, all the Spencers officially were in East Cavalry Field, not in McPherson's Ridge west of Gettysburg on July 1st. Combine that then with this last bit of info I want to show you, okay? If you take a look, these are all carbines of the entire Cavalry Court at Gettysburg. And the reason I say at Gettysburg is because I think is it Huey? There was a division out, and I think it was Huey was not at Gettysburg. That was technically part of the Cavalry Corps, but he wasn't at Gettysburg. So that's why I phrased this graph as I did, right? So anyways, out of the entire Cavalry Corps, so including Buford, Kilpatrick and Gregg, you had 67% of the carbines were sharps. Yeah, no surprise there, right? Then the next most common is the Burnside. And then, okay, fine. The third most common would be the Spencer rifles, primarily only because the 5th and 6th Michigan Cavalry regiments, right? The Michigan Brigade. And then the Smith, the Gallagher, and the Merrill all pretty much tie at 3 or 4% with everything else. So anyways, the reason I bring this up is because it's facts like, going back to that first slide here, this one right here, where I asked the question, what's the most common carbine found in Buford's division on July 1st? And the majority, barely the majority, but still the majority of people who answer that question said the Spencer. That is not at all true. And it's this is what drives me to have my videos on my YouTube channel, to educate, because again, I'm assuming there's not malicious ignorance, I guess, if you want to say that. Just especially like if I didn't know, you hear these rumors and you don't research them, right? And this is honestly one of the things that I love going back to primary records. Not even books, although I love secondary, tertiary books, modern books, written, great, but I'm talking about going back to primary records, the ordnance returns of each regiment quarterly, that was hand to hand, runner to runner, to that went and reported to their higher ups, that were original documents that the actual from the captains to, well, I guess from the sergeants to the captains to the colonels, up the chain of command, handed these reports to, whether it's morning reports detailing the numbers of men, that were ready for duty that day, or ordnance returns or muster rolls or whatever it is. There is a benefit of diving into primary records because there's a lot of ignorance that abounds. There's a lot of rumors and legends that really, they sound great, they're awesome, but it's not the truth. And we see it then, we see it now. There's a lot, just with the, even though it's a really good story that Spencers were awesome, new technology on the field, you get caught up in the excitement of technology and what they did later, especially later on in the war. Unreal what they did is for providing firepower to the Cavalry Corps through the rest of the war. But you got to be careful with repeating things that we've heard and we haven't confirmed, right? So anyways, I'm going to post another question on the YouTube channel and see what you guys see what you get there. But I just want to throw this out there, maybe a short video, kind of longer than I tended already, because I tend to babble on when I don't have a script in front of me. But take a look. 43% were still not right. In fact, honestly, what's funny, the right answer to this question, 0% said Gallagher, and that was the right answer. So anyways, my whole point is challenge your preconceived ideas of what the truth actually is. Go in primary records, research what you can. Any primary record you can't have access to, make sure you find a good book that has good references and citations, and get to know your favorite stories of the Civil War. So this is just a plea to go out, get primary records, dive in, do research, enjoy reading books, get in and enjoy the story of the American Civil War and what that did to our country, both good and bad, and appreciating our history. So anyways, I want to throw that out there. I wanted to comment below. I'm kind of curious. Comment below what you think about the question, what you think about the answers that people did, and the findings and maybe my assumptions on being surprised that not only did no one get the right answer, but the most common answer was literally the worst possible, most wrong answer that anyone could have answered. Most people answered. So I'm kind of curious. So maybe those of you who answered Spencer, is it because you heard it? Is it because, like, where did that rumor or legend come from in your head that made you answer Spencer? So answer below whether you did or didn't, and kind of have a fun conversation here, and look for another post, another trivia question on our YouTube channel, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.